Good evening. Thank you for attending the Baltimore County Executive's third Budget Town Hall for District 6, hosted by your County Executive, Johnny Olszewski Jr., and your County Councilwoman, Kathy Bevins. I'm Amanda Carr from the County Executive's Office of Community Engagement, and I am pleased to introduce to you Abby Slocum, my colleague and your Community Out Coordinator.
Hi everyone, I'm excited to be here tonight for the 6th District Town Hall. As Amanda said, I'm the 6th District Outreach Coordinator in the County Executive's Office of Community Engagement. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Abby. In a moment, I'm going to turn it over to Councilwoman Bevins, but first I want to thank those of you who submitted your questions in advance. The County Executive, one of the department heads who are on the call, or Councilwoman Bevins will answer as many of your budget-related questions as possible tonight. For those of you who are watching through social media, you may submit your budget-related questions in the comment section. These will be answered after the County Executive's budget presentation. If we cannot answer your question tonight, we will have Gabby Slocum, your District 6 representative, follow up with you. And now it is my honor and privilege to welcome your Councilwoman, Kathy Bevins.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for that introduction. Good evening, everyone. I especially want to thank our County Executive, John Olszewski, for continuing with these town hall meetings again this year. And I think it's very important that the citizens of Baltimore County see where their tax dollars are going and for what projects and what each dollar is being spent on, and just for the transparency of the process. I also would like to thank all the directors. I know that we have probably over 50 directors and support staff standing by to answer any questions, including my staff is here as well, Doris Poling. And these are all the folks that get up every day and oversee these agencies and offices to make sure that the services are provided to you, the citizens of Baltimore County. I also would like to thank everyone that has tuned in this evening. It means you're engaged, and that's a good thing when we have citizens engaged. It's definitely been a very trying year for most of us. I find very few people that have not been affected this year, especially by COVID, and I know that'll be, I'm sure, talked about this evening. But we have weathered the storm, and I really am grateful to the leadership of County Executive Olszewski for his leadership, and the health department and the way they have rolled these vaccinations out and the way that they have tested people. And it's been a very difficult year, I know. And I'm sure that the budget that I'm about to see may reflect that in some way, shape, or form for the upcoming year. But I also know that the county executive understands, as well as the council members, that we need to continue services for the citizens of Baltimore County, which means all our essential, trash pickup and snow removal, as well as supporting existing infrastructure, new infrastructure, as well as education. So I really look forward to seeing the proposed budget, and I look forward to the discussions with ourselves and the citizens of the 6th District and anyone else that may be out there this evening. Thank you.
Well, with that, thank you, Councilwoman Bevins, for that introduction, and for those welcoming remarks. Thank you, Amanda and Gabby and everyone on the Office of Community Engagement. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight for the 6th District Town Hall. It is good to be with everyone, even if just virtually. It is particularly an honor to be here alongside Councilwoman Bevins, who has been a great partner on the County Council. She has been also a trailblazer on the council and in Baltimore County, and I look forward to having her help us kick off our Women's History Month series Thursday night to talk more about her experiences. So tune in again on Thursday and help us kick that off. I want to also echo the councilwoman's thanks and praise of our departments in Baltimore County. We have exceptional leadership, and almost every department has a director or deputy director here tonight. I'm thrilled to be working alongside the councilwoman, our departments, and all of you towards a better Baltimore County. Because over the past 2 years, with your help and partnership, we have set new and higher standards in local government. and a new and better way of doing things in Baltimore County. We came together last year under a very different set of circumstances, working with you all and with the councilwoman. We had closed an $81 million deficit. We had put the county's fiscal house in order, and we had maintained our AAA bond rating. Those ratings were again affirmed today. We put out a release. So again, even in the midst of this pandemic, our AAA bond ratings have been affirmed and actually upgraded to a more stable outlook from one of the agencies. So it's been really good news on that front. With that stronger financial footing, we were positioned for incredible progress. We had enacted unprecedented ethics and accountability reforms. We were releasing public data dashboards. We were becoming much more available. New levels of transparency coming to Baltimore County, and we were set to build upon our record funding for schools and investments in all of our communities. But then obviously COVID-19 upended our entire way of life and changed everything. At the beginning of the pandemic, we were forced to work with our partners on the council to cut $100 million of spending from last year's budget. But we still managed to pass a budget that focused on our essentials: education, public safety, and those critical services our residents depend upon. We also began preparing for an unprecedented crisis, the likes of which none of us had ever seen before. In March of 2020, the county recorded our first case. Now we have over 50,000 confirmed cases. We unfortunately lost over 1,200 of our neighbors and loved ones. Countless residents have lost their jobs or their businesses. Over 245,000 Baltimore County residents have had to file for unemployment claims at some point during this crisis. But within weeks, we built a COVID-19 testing operation, which has now provided almost 500,000 tests free and without a doctor's note. We were doing PPE distribution, and we created a contact tracing operation. And we've seen the opportunity to step up and meet the immense needs of our communities, because we believe local government has an obligation and a responsibility to help people meet their most basic of needs. And we are meeting that need. Together, we've distributed over 13 million meals in partnership with Baltimore County Public Schools and our public library. We also have partnerships with the Maryland Food Bank, local businesses like H&S Bakery, and our local Baltimore County farmers. Through our eviction prevention program, we have distributed over $5 million to help save 1,400 households avoid eviction. In June, we started phase 1 of that eviction prevention program with $1.2 million going to nearly 485. In phase 2, we allocated $5 million in partnership with nonprofits like the Community Assistance Network and Catholic Charities. And through these initial phases, we found that the majority of applications for rental assistance came from the 9 zip codes with high rates of housing instability and poverty, in addition to high rates of COVID-19 transmission. So thanks to an innovative partnership with the United Way of Central Maryland, we provided $4.2 million to help over 900 households stay in their houses and not risk the spread of COVID-19. We look forward to doing more on this front. And I'm proud that Councilwoman Bevins and the council recently approved a grant that we secured of $24.7 million from the U.S. Department of Treasury through its Emergency Rental Assistance Program. We estimate these funds should help us assist at least an additional 1,250 county renters. We're also closing the digital divide in Baltimore County. We are providing 6 months of Comcast Internet Essentials to 1,000 moderate and low-income houses. We created a program to help low-income families pay for childcare, supporting those who have had children in remote learning but who couldn't afford it. We're also proud that we created a similar program to help county employees who have school-age children. And we're doing all that we can to help our neighbors, residents and businesses alike, get to the other side of this crisis. That is why we've provided millions of dollars to restaurants and businesses, helping them to stay open, and millions more to help keep their staff and customers safe. In total, we've awarded over $21 million across 6 different programs to 1,350 different grant applicants. Over 13 million of that 21 million has gone to restaurants specifically. Through our small business reimbursement grant program, we've helped nearly 300 businesses install equipment to prevent the spread of COVID. We've distributed over $4 million as part of our small business relief grant program. And over 50% of all of our grants have been awarded to minority and women-owned firms. Now, this is a grant volume that's at least 20 times our normal workload, which is really impressive that we've been able to do it quickly and efficiently without requiring additional staff resources. Now, with the arrival of the COVID vaccine, we see the light coming at the end of the tunnel. And our first vaccine was distributed on December 23rd. To date, over 122,000 Baltimore County residents have been vaccinated. That's nearly 15% of our residents, and over 72,000 have received both of their doses. We have consistently been a leader in the state for the number of residents vaccinated among local jurisdictions. And we're capable of administering 1,000 doses per hour at just our state fairgrounds clinic. Not to mention, we're also working to expand our access, having opened new clinics at CCBC Essex just last week, which followed our second clinic at the Randallstown Community Center. We're also now partnering with Uber to give anyone without transportation access to a county-run clinic. In addition, our health and fire departments are working to vaccinate anyone who can't leave their homes. But we can do so much more, and we know that so many others are still seeking a vaccine. But we ask for your patience because we have continually only received a limited number of vaccines in Baltimore County. So in the meantime, let's keep doing all that we can to stop the spread and save lives. Wear your masks and practice social distancing. You know, even amid this crisis and in the response to COVID-19, we've continued our work to improve our communities, taking significant actions to reform county government and move Baltimore County forward. And I'm really proud of what we've accomplished together over these past 2 years. In the 6th district specifically, we have dedicated over $175 million to improve our schools. That includes $56 million for a new elementary school at Ridge Road in Nottingham, and $103 million for a new middle school in the Northeast, which is now currently in the design phase. Now, the county portions of these schools have been secured for years, but thanks to the Blueprint for Maryland's Future's passage, we will finally receive the state share and can move forward on these critical projects. In addition, we have millions more budgeted for maintenance and repairs at schools across the district, including new roofs at Chase Elementary School, Parkville Middle, and Overly High. Meanwhile, we're continuing to explore plans for a brand new Northeast High School as we work with BCPS to finally develop a long-term school construction plan. So moving forward, we'll keep doing all that we can to best meet the needs of every student and every community. At CCBC, we recently completed the construction of the Carol Diane Eustace Center for Health Professions. The county was proud to put forward $30 million to support the construction of this $65 million facility. It is an incredible place. And we have over $421,000 budgeted to renovate the Rosedale Library's bathrooms and meeting room. Protecting our open space remains a top priority, so we'll also continue to do all that we can to ensure access to parks across Baltimore County. We have budgeted over $2.8 million for improvements to rec and park facilities in District 6. That includes the design for new PAL centers in Middle River, at Glenmar Elementary School, and in Rosedale at McCormick Elementary School, and a new skate park at Hazelwood Park, which is in the design phase. I want to give Councilwoman Bevins a lot of credit here, a lot of advocacy on her part, and we were really proud to have been able to make sure all of these projects are happening. We're also continuing to invest in our rec and park facilities across the district, including renovations to baseball fields and rec centers, as well as our multi-purpose courts at Elmwood Elementary School and at Harford Park Community Center. Double Rock Park is slated to receive $285,000 of upgrades for parking and drainage. And moving forward, we are continuing to plan for a new park in the Northeast area. We're proud to have budgeted a record $35 million for recreation and parks in our most recent capital budget referendum. But we also have an obligation to make sure we are maintaining our infrastructure and providing for critical services to our residents. We have budgeted hundreds of millions of dollars to improve and maintain our water and sewer system. And we're proud to have budgeted record funding for road resurfacing. Our team has resurfaced 35 lane miles across District 6, and we remain committed to doing all that we can to ensure your communities continue to thrive. Thank you for your partnership in these investments in District 6. Across Baltimore County in our first 2 years, we provided back-to-back years of record funding for public education, including over $240 million towards those shovel-ready school construction projects. And coupled with that state funding, we will be prepared to finish the County Schools for Our Future program and begin to further address other long-term needs. That's why we're so glad to see the General Assembly has overridden the governor's veto of the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. which has now also unlocked that $462 million of school construction under the Built to Learn Act. The blueprint will also help us raise teacher pay, make key investments inside the classroom, and ensure that all of our children have the resources they need to succeed. As we continue to strengthen our schools, we also are working alongside BCPS and a nationally recognized consultant, Canon Design, to develop a long-term plan that addresses our school construction needs. Throughout this process, collaboration with all of you is important. So we want to make sure we're forming a long-term plan to ensure that every child, every teacher, every family across Baltimore County has access to a world-class learning environment. And as we invest in our schools and our educational system, we're also doing all that we can to keep our community safe. And I'm proud to report that Baltimore County remains a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. Violent crime rates declined over the past year, which has continued a multiple years long trend downward. So I want to thank Chief Hyatt and the Baltimore County Police Department for their efforts. Last year, we shared our update to our crime fighting strategy, which included enhanced data and analytics, increasing crime prevention efforts in hotspots, and participating in the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. We are truly starting to see the benefits of having these measures in place. And now you can also track our crime data using the new dashboards we released just last week. That can be found at baltimorecountymd.gov/BCStat. This past summer, we also heard calls for justice across our state and across our country. And I'm proud to say we answered that call, becoming the first jurisdiction in the region to take a major step forward. With the bipartisan Smart Policing Act, Baltimore County has banned chokeholds, required de-escalation and implicit bias training, prevented officers with prior records of misconduct from serving in our department, and codified many other reforms that were already underway. We've also, in a bipartisan fashion, increased transparency in the police department, setting up the data dashboards that track use of force by and complaints against law enforcement, and creating the county's first ever policy requiring the release of body camera footage. Baltimore County is also taking on the opioid epidemic head on. And as we continue to have the second highest number of opioid related deaths in the state, it becomes imperative that we remain focused on this issue. Now, fortunately, we have not seen the dramatic spikes that other jurisdictions have seen during this crisis of COVID-19, but we do continue to lose far too many of our loved ones to addiction. That's why in our first year, we hired the county's first opioid strategy coordinator, and we began developing a comprehensive plan to end this epidemic. We are now in the process of expanding harm services reduction, like needle exchange programs and drug drop boxes. We're increasing access to treatment with a new center in Owens Mills and another center in the planning stages. We're also partnering with Shepherd Pratt Hospital to develop a hub and spoke model for treatment in Baltimore County. Treatment that's focused on individuals with dually diagnosed disorders and those who have both mental health and struggle with addiction. And we will continue to look at all options to increase access to treatment. Residents in Baltimore County also deserve a jurisdiction that remains vibrant and livable for generations to come. It's why we must enact sustainable practices that also protect our planet. So we are instilling a culture of sustainability throughout county government. Over the last year, we began developing our first greenhouse gas inventory and countywide climate action plan. In partnership with Councilwoman Bevins and others in DPW and all of you, we were able to renew and restart our glass recycling program that stopped back in 2013. And we're pursuing new innovations, like converting methane gas at our landfill to renewable energy, offsetting an estimated 21 million kilowatt hours of county electric usage annually. We're also committed to increasing funding for rec and parks. I mentioned the $35 million, which is a record investment for our rec and parks facilities. We also doubled our funding for ag preservation. We also have issued an executive order requiring new county buildings to be built up to LEED standards. And we just partnered with BG&E to install electrical vehicle charging stations throughout Baltimore County. So we will continue to do all that we can to ensure a more sustainable Baltimore County for future generations. But we know that our commitment to sustainability also has to be reflected in our approach to transportation. We want to think bigger and more creatively about how we do it. So in Towson, we're proud to be launching a Towson Circulator this year. It's something we hope to replicate in communities across Baltimore County. In Middle River, we recently received our second ever state transit-oriented development designation. at the site of the former aircraft manufacturing plant, the former Martin facility, which you all may know. It's nearly 2 million square feet of redevelopment and a project called Aviation Station, something I know Councilwoman Bevins has been helping to promote and make come to life for a very long time. To reduce congestion, we're also exploring other ways to move forward and imagine new possibilities, things like microtransit and dense transit-oriented development in places where it makes sense, like Aviation Station. And we remain committed to maintaining our existing roadways to keep our residents safe, which is why we will keep up record funding and road resurfacing for traffic calming projects. Our infrastructure is more than just transportation, though. We also are looking at our water system. And the policies governing our water system are decades old. They're older than I am, and they're in need of reform. So we are partnering with Baltimore City on a comprehensive review, and I look forward to working with Mayor Scott to modernize these critical services. Another area where we need action is waste disposal. Trash from our landfills has increased from 304 tons per day to over 1,400 tons per day. So in October, we created a work group to develop a 5-year solid waste plan. And we issued a survey from residents to gather input about how our trash and recycling services could be improved. So we're committing all of our efforts, all of our energy to do whatever we can to keep our community sustainable and vibrant. And we're proud of the work that we're doing and the ways in which it's paying off in our communities and on our main streets. We will continue to make upstream investments to strengthen our neighborhoods and support our young people in particular. I'm proud that we expanded our summer youth program for youth workers, even amid a pandemic. We provided them new opportunities to hundreds of people, giving new skills, experiences, and connections to 280 participants, which was a 44% increase from the year before. And we look forward to growing this program further in the years ahead. I mentioned the planning of the construction for the PAL centers in Rosedale and Middle River. And across Baltimore County, we're making efforts to revitalize our main streets. Towson is thriving and has been named a Maryland Main Street affiliate. Reisterstown has been named our county's second Main Street, and Catonsville, Music City, Maryland, became our first ever arts and entertainment district. Closer to you all on the east side, Trade Point Atlantic is continuing to breathe new life into Sparrows Point and is one of the biggest e-commerce hubs in the country. I'm proud to have the support and the partnership of Councilwoman Bevins to help lead Baltimore County in a way that is more transparent, open, and accountable than ever before. We passed together an unprecedented ethics package that resulted in lobbying reform, a now successful charter amendment to establish public financing of elections. We created the county's first ever inspector general. And last year, we took a number of steps to heighten accountability, launching BC Stat, our data-driven performance management system, creating data dashboards to increase accountability in county services, and creating Open Checkbook, which was an expansion of our open budget platform that now allows you to see county spending down to the contract level. We worked with the county council to move work sessions later in the day. We created an office of community engagement to ensure that every district has a dedicated representative. We established a 311 line. And just last week, we launched the county's first ever enterprise-wide operational efficiency audit, which is a chance to rethink government operations, improve our services, and find meaningful places we can save money. We'll be working with a national firm called Public Works LLC to develop a roadmap more efficient and more effective in our operations. We will continue to do all that we can to make Baltimore County more transparent and accountable, especially as we head into recovery from COVID-19. Speaking of recovery, after facing an unprecedented crisis like this, our region must work together to pick up the pieces and rebuild. And as we rebuild, we must make a concerted effort to address the disparities that have always been there, but have been laid particularly bare by this crisis. We can't just rebuild our economy. We have to improve on it. And our recovery must be holistic. We want to bring bold actions to strengthen our business community, support our residents, and address inequities in our communities. So as we recover, we will be putting an emphasis on supporting small and independent businesses on our main streets. And we will target our resources to those businesses that were hit hardest, like restaurants, movie theaters, and event venues. We know that some industries like hospitality and tourism have bore the brunt of the pandemic's economic impact. So we'll also think creatively about how to support them. And we'll work with regional partners to build a robust tourism strategy that highlights our homegrown assets right here in Baltimore County. But rest assured, all options will be on the table, from leveraging loan guarantees to investing in our main streets and business corridors to expanding our small business resource center. Because recovery works best when we are big and bold. It also works best when it's done in partnership and with an open dialogue. So I look forward to hearing from the business community and from you about ideas you'd like us to explore. Because when this pandemic ends, we have to resolve to come back stronger with family supporting jobs, doing more with things like the Job Connector program and expanding free community college through the College Promise program. So in April, I will introduce the fiscal 22 budget to Councilwoman Bevins and the County Council, and the Council will have until May 31st to approve it. As you know, in addition to the Council, you have an important role to play. So Councilwoman Bevins and I look forward to hearing from you tonight about your priorities for our budget. Together, we can set our shared priorities, plan for our recovery from this crisis, and ensure we're positioned to come out stronger when we get to the other side. So with that, I will open the floor. I think I will be turning it over to Amanda to go over some ground rules and how to submit questions. We'll start with answering a few of the questions that came in ahead of time, and then we'll go back and forth between live questions and those that were pre-submitted. And Councilwoman Bevins, as we're answering, feel free to chime in as you have anything to add tonight.
Thank you, County Executive.
Thank you. Before we start with the questions, I just want to thank everyone who submitted their questions in advance. We have them, and the County Executive will be answering those that pertain to District 6. And a reminder for those of you watching through social media, you can ask in the comment section or chat feature of YouTube or Facebook, and they will be forwarded to us, and the County Executive will do the best he can to answer them live. If we cannot answer your question tonight, we will have Gabby Slocum, your outreach coordinator, follow up with you. Mr. County Executive, are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. First question comes from Christy. A good number of your constituents live on or near waterfront areas in Baltimore County, whose property values and the ability to use their property depends on protecting these waterways. I am a relatively new resident to Baltimore County, moved here in 2018, purchased a home in Bird River. As a resident with a young family and hoping to live here for a long time, I've been increasingly concerned about what seems to be the deprioritization of maintaining or restoring rivers and streams that have been irreparably damaged by development and erosion issues in the past few decades. It seems like there were concerted efforts to make amends for damage allowed by the county and state, but those efforts have now fallen by the wayside with a dredge project that is now delayed by several years. Homeowners recently being informed that requests for new spurs, which were due to come at a significant cost to homeowners paying for the spurs anyway, are being canceled because they would damage the river and require expensive mitigation. Can you address the current state of the dredging project? And can you specifically explain how state environmental officials came to the conclusion that new dredging would cause damage?
Thanks, Amanda. Christy, thank you for your question, for tuning in tonight. I'm actually going to turn things over, because it's a technical question on state regulations and requirements, to Mr. Director Dave Likens of our Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. And Christy, thank you for your question. That's a great question. As you know, we were planning to do dredging in Bird River in coordination with the state. We were paying for half of it. The state was paying for half of it. And as we went through the permitting process, what we found out from the state, we have dredged Bird River several times in the past. And so what the state decided was that the areas that we had dredged in the past did not require any mitigation this time. However, new dredging areas, for instance, some of the spurs to Citizens Docks were new areas that hadn't been dredged before, and they decided that we had to mitigate for those areas. So as it turned out, the mitigation in many cases cost more than the actual dredging itself. And as you said, the citizens had to pay for it themselves, but they were paying sometimes $20,000 for a spur, but $30,000 for the mitigation. And the county had to front the mitigation up front. The entire project cost about $2.2 million in our estimate. And at the end of the day, the mitigation was going to be another $1.1 million. So what we decided to do was, we decided it was not prudent to spend that much on mitigation for the new spurs, and we decided to continue with the existing areas that we had dredged before. And we do have a permit now to go forward with that information and dredging. And we're just going to start, put out the bid this spring and hopefully start October 15th of this year. You're allowed to dredge between October 15th and February 15th in order to protect fish habitats and submerged aquatic vegetation. So we're hoping to have a permit start this year for the main channel itself. Those people that did not have their spurs dredged in the past that were excluded from this permit are still able to go out on their own and try to get permits to do it themselves through the Army Corps of Engineers. So the county did make a decision, because the mitigation was so expensive, to eliminate new spurs from this particular project. So I hope that answers part of your question.
Thanks. Thanks, Dave. And in addition to that answer, Gabby, your District 6 liaison, and Director Likens and DEPS will be happy to provide the resources as we start that dredging project about how residents who were not otherwise included to have an opportunity to access that dredging. So.
Okay, Kenny Kellner from Facebook asks, Baltimore City partnership with Lyft. Okay, let me restart that. The Baltimore City partnership with Lyft to help people like me get essentials. How has Baltimore County explored this option to help people like me who cannot get the essentials because of lack of transportation?
Thanks, Kenny, and I appreciate you watching tonight. What I can tell you is we just recently announced a partnership with Uber about getting people access to these vaccination clinics. So anyone who does not have transportation, who has an appointment, can call 311 to get a ride to a vaccination center. I know that we also have lots of opportunities that we're exploring as part of our recovery package, where we're not just it's not just about businesses, but about people. And so we are trying to find ways to expand public transportation options. And so if there are ways to sort of further expand access to essentials, we certainly are going to be looking at that. And if you have a specific need, I'd encourage you to reach out to your Office of Community Engagement liaison or send me an email, and I'm happy to make sure we make the connection.
Bill asks, please consider the Elmwood section for speed bumps or a way to slow traffic on Westfield Road, Westwood Road, Springwood, etc. We know the community has been turned down because traffic is light, the traffic that goes through speed and run stops regularly.
Thanks for that question, Bill. What I can tell you is that I have consistently pushed our teams to think differently about what eligibility looks like for speed humps. There are obviously some fiscal constraints in terms of how many we can do in a given year, but in terms of eligibility, I've really worked with Director Deandra Walker, and she has recently been appointed. She's been very open-minded about trying to work with the communities that if there's not a reason for public safety, for example, to not do it, and if the community overwhelmingly wants to see them, trying to be more flexible, but we can certainly look at it. And I don't know if Director Walker is on and she wants to speak to the question a bit more. Or Mr. Russell from DPW.
Thank you, County Executive. Yeah, we are aware of the area, and we encourage, to get your information in the Gabby, or you could go to the county website, and we actually have the application right on site. Fill it out, and our transportation folks will have a look at it. And like the County Executive said, we are looking at all these more aggressively than we have in the past.
Okay, Anita from Facebook. When will the PAL Center come to Middle River?
Not soon enough, right, Councilwoman?
That's right.
Okay.
Chief Russell, thank you for that answer. And I don't know if Director Johnson is on and wants to speak to the PAL Center timeline a little bit.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. CE. That's an excellent question, and all inquiring minds want to know. So we anticipate it will be next year. We are nearing our 60% design for the facility, And I think once we unveil the final design to the facility, I think the community is going to be blown away. We're looking at having a STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math emphasis there, and tying in the airport with the Middle River community. So you're in for a real treat. But we anticipate it'll be next year is the answer to that question. And we're hoping it'll be the middle of next year, not the end of next year, but more to come. Stay tuned. Once we know, we'll certainly let you know.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I'm so excited, especially about the program we're tying into Glen L. Martin and the state airport. That is just fantastic. It's amazing to me that the students that are in the Middle River area, that's not taught as a part of their history. I'm very surprised by that because there's so much of that history pre and post World War II for the communities. Most of the communities there, especially like Arrow Acres, is a planned community, the first planned community itself that came out of Glen L. Martin. So I'm really excited. So I'm hoping, you know, earlier than later.
We have a message from Charlie. My message is simple. Please increase funding for land preservation. My priorities for sustaining the land preservation are: number one, continue efforts to reinstate the county rural legacy and agricultural preservation programs by committing a minimum of 1% of the capital budget to preservation programs. Number two, preserve farms under imminent threat and key properties with limited development potential. Number three, fund local land trusts that provide services to the county by identifying properties for preservation and accepting perpetual stewardship role of preserved properties. Number four, maximize the effective use of local side Maryland program open space funds by prioritizing projects identified in and the adopted land preservation Parks and Recs plan. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that continued push. As I mentioned in the remarks, we did in fact this year double our investment in ag preservation, land preservation programs, from $2 to $4 million. I have projected out. Our goal is to then increase it over the next two referenda cycle to double it again. So to go from $4 million this year to $6 million in 2022, and then to $8 million in 2024. So we are committed there. We're proud of the work that we're doing to identify great parcels under our POS program and the additional $35 million to upgrade our rec facilities. Is anyone on from the Department of Planning, either director or deputy director, want to speak a little bit to the program and our efforts here?
Mr. County Executive, this is Steve Lafferty. Happy to sort of add on to what you've just said, is that recently we took before the County Council 13 farms to bring into our ag preservation program. As you pointed out, with your commitment to increasing the money, we're well above a 1% increase annually. We will also be presenting to the County Council in the near future 5 communities that are 5 areas that are engaged in rural legacy efforts to protect more and more of the lands. We still have an 80,000 acre goal that we're working towards, and the staff and the planning department is committed to working with Charlie and the land trusts, Ann Jones and the others, to make sure that land preservation remains at the top of our agenda.
Can I just thank Charlie for his volunteerism over I want to say many years, but I'm sure it's decades, all the years that he has given to land preservation. And I mean, he's out there getting his hands dirty. He just doesn't show up for meetings and talk about it. He actually goes out and teaches folks, and he shows up in so many communities across Baltimore County to let people know how they can pitch in and how they can help. So I know that Baltimore County is very grateful for the work that he has done in his partnership. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
Christy from Facebook asks, with hybrid learning starting this week, Is there any word on when public libraries will reopen?
That is a good question. I don't know. Do we have anyone from the library system on tonight to
Yes,
speak
Mr.
there?
Yes, Mr. C. It's James Cook, Assistant Director of the Library. Hi. Good evening, everyone. Yes, we are currently in the process of continuing our plans for reopening. We currently provide curbside service at all of our 19 locations, as well as computer appointments inside our branches. So we encourage residents to take advantage of those services. We are looking at developing plans for the next phase of our reopening, which will include opening branches for browsing, which we know customers are very interested in. So stay tuned for that. We're hoping to share some of that information in the coming weeks.
Okay, Melissa asks, how is Baltimore County ensuring that vulnerable populations have access to the COVID vaccine?
Yeah.
Thanks, Melissa. This is a huge issue and thrust for Dr. Branch and Della Leister, our Deputy Health Officer over on HHS. And in addition to some of the work I mentioned earlier about the specific plan for opening up a mass vac site in Randallstown and having our faith community leaders join us for that, I know there's a lot of other work going on. So Della or Doc, if you're on.
This is Dr. Branch. I am here.
Hey.
Excellent question. Hey. I think it's very important to understand that you're not successful when it comes to giving out your vaccines just because you just put it in all people's arms. I think you have to be successful in that you've got to put it into the arms of Black and brown people and also the vulnerable people. And so we are working towards that now. We're working with our 75 and older group at this particular time. We're working with the Department of Aging, who are helping them to actually make the appointments, speaking to them on the phone and making the appointments for them. We're going to be working with our homebound folks. So we'll be going out to homebound people and actually giving them the injections. We're working with the churches at this particular time because we want to make sure that we get the vaccine into the neighborhoods where people are so they don't have to travel as far. We're also giving the transportation to folks who are trying to get out to our vaccine clinics. If they don't have the transportation, as the CE mentioned, they can call 311. So we've got multiple ideas and multiple programs that are going on so we can get the vaccine into the vulnerable populations in Baltimore County.
And credit to Dr. Branch and partnership with my chief of staff, we are also in the process of hiring for a COVID-19 health equity manager to partner both with HHS and the executive office to make sure that we are looking at these exact issues and supporting Dr. Branch and his incredible work that he's doing already. Thank you for that question, Melissa.
Can I say a few words to Dr. Branch? Do you mind?
Please.
Dr. Branch, thank you so much on behalf of not just the citizens of Baltimore County, but in my district. You have been amazing. Everyone that I have talked to, whether it's been on social media or they've reached out to my office or just when I bump into people who have already had their vaccines or had to take a family member to get their vaccine, said it was so well organized. Everyone was so nice. The wait wasn't long. And that they could tell that the people were just such caring people. And I know that you even have golf carts picking people up with their cars and taking them to the entrance and really calling ahead for people with disabilities that it's going to be really tough for them, you know, to get into the Cow Palace. And I just want to say you're doing an extraordinary job. I am so grateful you are our health officer right now during this past year. It's just been tremendous to watch you work your way through this and the entire health department. So I know that you probably hear it from people all the time, but I can't say it enough. People are grateful for your leadership in the health department and the way that this has been expedited. And of course, folks know that we can only give the vaccines when available, you know, what we've received. But it's just the way that it's been handled under the circumstances, and people really do appreciate it during this difficult time. So thank you.
My mother always said that when someone compliments you, just say thank you. And so I'm going to say thank you. But I do have to say that I've got a wonderful and extraordinary team who are actually the engines to that wheel. So thank you. And thanks to Mr. CE, because you are a great leader and helping us to do all of this. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks, Councilwoman.
You thank all the folks there in your agency for us, Dr. Branch. Thank you.
And there was a fun story about one of Dr. Branch's rock stars, Terry Sapp, yesterday, front page of the Baltimore Sun. His experience as a roadie for Twisted Sister helped him become very strong in logistics, and you're seeing the benefit of that. We've been held up as a statewide, if not national model, and it is something we're all very proud of in Baltimore County for our vaccination clinics. Just get us more doses, we will get them out. And
Okay. Christy from YouTube asks, I'm the president of Hawthorne Civic Association. We've seen increased illegal dumping. Is there a plan to bring back bulk pickup? It was discontinued in 1992. Without bulk pickup, many residents don't have options for proper disposal of large items.
Christy, thank you for your leadership in Hawthorne. Really appreciate all that you do. Thank you for your question. I will be completely honest, bulk trash pickup is one of the things I hope to see us bring back while I'm county executive. We have had our share of challenges. My first year, we inherited an $81 million deficit. This year, we had $100 million in cuts because of COVID. And so we'll be looking at the budget this year, but having that feedback is very helpful in terms of trying to prioritize the limited resources we hope and expect to have as part of this budget process. But Councilwoman has also indicated her support for this. I'll let her say that as well. And then if anyone, if Chief Russell wants to add anything from the DPW's perspective, we can add that as well.
Thank you, Christy, for your leadership. And I do know this is an issue all through Baltimore County. And I do think by bringing back bulk pickup, we would have less and less illegal dumping in our dark, one-way streets and wooded areas for sure. So I'm hoping that will be something that we can budget for in the future. And I do remember when we had it back in the day, and I think it is a way of keeping things out of our alleyways, our roadways, and keeping illegal dumping down. So thank you for bringing that up. I certainly appreciate it.
Mr. County Executive.
Mayo.
Yes, just for the listening audience, we have engaged in a solid waste work group over the last few months since November, and a solid waste effort in terms of bulk pickup is one of our recommendations coming forward very soon to you.
All right.
Okay, we had 4 people ask this question.
Oh boy.
My concerns are great regarding the POW farm space. During this restricted period has been imperative for people to have their open air green space to walk, exercise, and grow vegetation. This area has experienced problems with storm drains, repairing roads, updating infrastructure. We are experiencing an overwhelming and greater wildlife with the destruction of green space. The subway is close to the location that increases foot and automobile traffic. I think this might not actually be for District 6. Unless Kathy, Councilwoman Bevins, you can say otherwise.
Are they talking about the amount of green space that the POW Community Center is going to take up?
No, it's PAHL farm space, but let's move on to the next question because I believe this is actually on the west side.
Okay.
Well,
District 2.
Yeah, but we also want to just try to respond to questions as well. So if you'll indulge, I think we can talk a little bit about Director Johnson, if you want to talk a little bit about our open space efforts and work there. And then I think Director Lafferty already answered the question about preservation, but maybe just talk about some of the work we're doing to try to preserve farms. And then in terms of development decisions, a lot of those are determined by zoning. And so since it's not in District 6, that would not have been a zoning decision by the council for this meeting. So I think we do have a council District 2 meeting coming up where we can talk more about the zoning for those that particular project. But it might be beneficial to just talk a little bit about our program open space planning and what we're trying to do to preserve open space. Director Johnson.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. CE. Excellent question. Powell's Farm is the farm. It's private property currently, and it's located in Pikesville. And so that's a property that we're looking at as a potential acquisition. We're looking at all properties as potential acquisition. As the county executive mentioned, we have an unexpended amount of program open space funding where half of it is allocated to acquisition. And so the county executive, the administrative officer, and the senior executive team have been moving barriers out of the county's way so that we can acquire more parkland and more open space for residents. During this pandemic, we've had the largest increase in park usership than any other jurisdiction in the state. We had a 224% increase in park usership, and that's based on the COVID-19 Google mobility data. So residents in Baltimore County are showing their interest with their feet, and we love it. As a Recreation and Parks Department, we're very happy about that. But it has shown us that we do need to try to acquire as much open space as possible. So I'm grateful to the county executive and Madam AO for helping us remove all those barriers so we can acquire these various properties throughout the county. And we are using program open space funding to be able to do that and trying to spend down our balance. So thank you.
Thanks, Director Johnson.
Okay. Can the county push for MDOT to improve ADA accessibility on Bel Air Road and a Bel Air Road streetscape? What can be done to reinvigorate the Overly Fullerton community plan and promote reinvestment in the area?
Something I spent a lot of time talking with Councilwoman Bevins, community leaders, Gabby about. We absolutely support the state doing more. We have actually continually asked for this to be a priority of ours on our letter to MDOT for more investment along that corridor. Chief Russell, do you want to add anything, or anyone else who wants to speak to the efforts along that corridor?
Thank you, County Executive. I know Director DeAndrea Walker has been interacting with the state on this, and we've really been pushing for the upgrades as well as, our own upgrades throughout the county.
So we will continue to push on this front as well. And we appreciate the question. Thank you.
Fullerton Elementary is overcrowded, and while a new elementary school will be built at some point, this needs to be addressed. What funding is available to support Fullerton Elementary and its students?
Great question. In addition to I don't know if it's actually, this might be a good chance to turn you over to Jennifer Lynch. Dr. Lynch is our new Director of Educational Partnerships. I will say, in addition to the money we put forward to finish Schools for Our Future, maybe Dr. Lynch wants to talk a little bit about the My iPass and what that hopes to do for all of our schools to identify the needs out there, which would probably include Fullerton given the overcrowding issues that are out there.
Mr. County Executive,
Director Blades from.
Yes, sir.
Fine.
From the budget perspective, we are underway in phase 2 of the My iPass, the multi-year improvement plan for all schools. We have the high school recommendations that are being considered in the FY22 budget formulation process, and we hope by the fall to have a full report which includes all the middle schools, all the elementary schools, and special schools. And Fullerton would be captured in all the elementary schools, and decisions will be made about where that falls in the process for improvements, additional capacity, and everything else as Canon Design moves through their evaluation process.
Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Blades. I appreciate it. I just want to make it clear to everyone that with mentioning Fullerton Elementary School, there are seven trailers in front of Fullerton Elementary School. And there has not been any development, so to speak, in that area at all. It's really just been a turnover of older folks moving out. You know, most of the housing in that area is generational. Families love it there and they stay. And but a lot of older folks have passed on, moved on, and younger families have moved in. And it's just a really vibrant community now. And it's very diverse, and it's just, and it's such a great school. But 7 trailers is a bit much. And now, not in my district, but in David Mark's district, in the 5th district, there's a PUD underway of over 800 homes. And those children will, unless the boundaries change with the new elementary schools that will be built, there are 800 homes, and those children are slated for Fullerton Elementary School. So it's a problem.
Okay.
Well, and I'll just add, you know, I started my career as a teacher in this county, and it was in a trailer. It was in one too many trailers. It was insufficient to me. It's what we want to get away from, which is why we're doing the My iPass, so that we have a long-term plan that accounts for all of our communities, not just those that are loudest and can advocate for themselves. So I assure you, I fully expect that this school will be included in the My iPass recommendations.
Thank you.
Amanda, you're muted.
Can the county put more funding into code enforcement to hire more officers so that cases can be addressed more efficiently? Can money from code enforcement cases be put back into code itself?
So I actually believe that code, there is some money from code that goes back to PAI. I don't believe that the amounts cover the full cost, so we supplement it with funds. I actually believe this came from someone who may have served on the task force. It was the question I saw. So thank you for your service on the task force. We are still working to try to implement those recommendations. I fully believe in the need for more. This is something that back when I was a delegate representing Southeast Baltimore County was an issue and a problem. So we are committed to it as well. I think we have Director Pete Gutwald on, who is still relatively new as the director of PAI, who can speak to some of the code issues and the opportunities there. And I think if I saw his budget request correctly, he did include some positions as part of his submission for consideration this year.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Yes, I'm here, and you are correct. We did ask for additional funding for additional individuals. We are also trying to leverage, think outside the box and leverage funds to do more code enforcement throughout the county and be a little more proactive in it. I am working with some other individuals and Terry Hickey in Office of Housing and Community Development to try and leverage some federal dollars to increase our abilities to do more code enforcement. So it is on our radar. We are familiar with, we are working towards a lot of the things that came out of that task force. I'm going through it and trying to figure the best way to implement them as fast as we can. So thank you for the question.
Caitlin from Facebook asks, where would the new park open space in District 6 be? Could it correlate to Northeast Trail?
So I believe the council will be voting on it soon. I typically don't announce the acquisitions until they're finished. But I am not the council, so if Councilwoman Bevins wanted to speak to the property, I will certainly defer to her. But if there is a connection possibility, we certainly want to explore it.
Yes. No, if you don't want to let the goods out of the bags, I don't either. But
It's totally up to you, Councilwoman.
The one thing I can mention, though, as far as some parkland, that just recently a developer has, and this is another part of the district, but it's on Bird River Road. A little new park will be going in there with a playground and perhaps a pavilion. And the folks down there are really thrilled about it. And you know, it's a great land donation, and so it's a little bit more. I know that most of the homes down that way sit on an acre, but you know, and they have big backyards, but they really don't have a park unless they go down to like Eastern Regional or over to Marshy Point. So I'm really excited about that as well. And you know, my hope is that one day all these trails can come together and be contiguous. Wouldn't that be fantastic to put on your hiking shoes or hop on your bicycle, whether by yourself or with your family, and just be able to get from Perry Hall to Middle River to Essex and to Rosedale, and just be able to bike and walk those areas. So I would love to see that. In our bicycle and pedestrian commission works very hard on looking at those issues, and I guess working with rec and parks and planning. So I think that a lot of people are really into, you know, getting to our parks and then exploring and just not being in one area. So I'm hoping, County Executive, that that we're around long enough to see that happen, that we connect our communities.
I have definitely issued that challenge to Director Johnson. Is that not right, Roz?
You absolutely have, Mr. County Executive. So much so that we are doing a master plan for the entire Recreation and Parks Department. The last master plan was done in 1950, which was a very good year. However, it was 70 years ago. So we are excited to get that started, and that will be a full community input process. So we want to hear from the community what their priorities are, and so more to come on that.
So, Councilwoman, we have the right leader in Rec and Parks who's up to the challenge. If anyone can do it, I think Director Johnson can. So
I'm really excited to hear that. And yeah, that's a long 70 years. Yeah, I think we're due. Let's get on that.
Okay. Scott from Facebook asks, with the amount of waterfront on the east side, what is the county doing to plan for and address sea level rise due to climate change? To be more clear, I mean addressing the impacts.
Thanks, Scott. Great question. As someone who grew up on the water on the east side, it's something very personal to me. And so in addition to what we're doing to combat climate change in the county with the methane capture, solar exploration, energy efficiencies, things like the BGE electric vehicle charging stations. Before he became Director of Planning, Steve Lafferty was leading these environmental efforts. So I'm going to actually turn it over to him to talk a little bit more about sea level and climate change and what the county has started under his leadership in his environmental stewardship role before becoming Director of Planning. We are actively hiring for his replacement, and we look forward to continuing that work as well.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. I think that's a really important question, particularly for those who do live either on the water or near the water, particularly the Chesapeake and the other tributaries. We have undertaken an analysis and a study of what we're going to do, particularly at the outset for county-owned assets due to sea level rise. And we know that a lot of properties, and I'm not sure where you live, but you know, in Bowley's Quarters and Turner Station and many other communities are constantly challenged by sea level rise. We know that the Environmental Protection and Sustainability Department has undertaken a number of projects to actually create basically soft shorelines that can mitigate the impacts along a lot of the waterways. And as we also try to support the coastal rural legacy area, buying more property that actually can mitigate the impacts as well. it's a big challenge, and we have to encourage more property owners to take actions themselves to reduce the impacts, try to build further back from the water, perhaps even create what's called greater freeboards so that you're not actually jeopardizing the properties, and find some other strategies. One of the next steps that I know the county executive is committed to is looking community-wide at how we deal with not only riverine flooding, inland flooding, but those of you who do live along the waterfronts. And really welcome your input as to what strategies you think we should be undertaking, because it's going to continue to be a challenge. We have been fortunate to have some good consultants work with us to begin to develop some strategies, but we're really only at the front end of this because unfortunately actions had not been taken to sufficiently prepare us for what we're going to be facing over the next 10 or 20 years. And our work has only started within the last couple of years, but we're going to continue, I know, throughout the balance of the administration time in office to find some other solutions. So once again, if you have some other ideas, if you can feed them through Gabby Slocum, and then I'm more happy to work with Gabby and others to help develop some good answers for you.
Do you mind if I bring up at this time, since we're talking about our waterfront, and it really doesn't have, well, I guess it's all tied in. I would like everybody to just well, a lot of our citizens don't know about some nonprofit organizations that we have that you can be involved in working on cleaning up the waterways and learning about how to preserve your property and keep things away from going into the water. And that is the Back River Restoration Committee, and they are located in Essex. They not only go out on the weekends and all summer long and actually pull things out of our waterways and all the streams leading from the Herring Run. We also have the Maryland Waterway Foundation under Sam Weaver's leadership. And all these organizations are always looking for volunteers, and they're not just about getting garbage and trash out of the waterways. They teach you about rain barrels and rock gardens, and really how to protect, do a better job on your property, about where to wash your car and how to water your plants and things like that. So some folks are always looking for volunteer positions and for their children to get community service hours. And I think, Mr. Lafferty, you would agree, these are two great organizations that are just hundreds and hundreds of volunteers that are out there trying to make our waterways enjoyable for everyone.
County Executive, can I jump in for a second? This is Dave Likens from Environmental Protection and Sustainability. I just want to say that we do provide grants to both of those organizations that Councilwoman Bevins just mentioned. And I want to thank everybody involved in both of those organizations because they provide thousands of hours, thousands of hours of their own time to go out every weekend sometimes and collect trash and debris. And on the Back River Restoration Committee, there's a trash boom that they collect hundreds of thousands of pounds of trash that come down the river. These people are selfless and go out throughout the whole year and do a great job. And I just want, on behalf of our organization, I'd like to thank them for all the hours they put in.
Thank you, Mr. Likens.
They're awesome organizations, and Councilwoman Bevins and I have spent our fair share of time getting our hands and our feet muddy alongside them. They really do great work, and I want to thank the department for their support of the efforts.
I had a fight with a tire once, and the tire won.
Once they're stuck, they're stuck.
I found that out.
As a follow-up to the last question, Monica from YouTube asked, are there any plans to help the erosion problems for Stemmers Run stream that runs through several parks within District 6?
Thanks, Monica. It's almost like you knew Director Likens was itching to talk more. So,
Monica, again, this is Dave Likens. Thank you for that question. I don't off the top of my head know where Stemmers Run stream restoration projects are. I know that they're on our list of things that we evaluated. I can't tell you right off the top when we'll be getting there and when they're in the queue to be done. But if you want to send me an email specifically or have talk to Gabby, dlikens at baltimorecountyMD.gov, I'll be more than happy to look up and see exactly when the Stemmers Run stream restoration projects are going to be in the queue.
Okay, I think our last question for the night. During this pandemic, I'm sorry, this is Frank. He says, during this pandemic, all the trials we have had, are you planning to raise our property taxes?
Frank, the answer is no. We are not doing that. We're going to continue making investments to support our teachers and educators and students and families and communities, and we're going to do it without raising any revenue. I'm really proud of what we've done this year. So any other questions, Amanda?
That was our last question.
Okay, very good. Councilman Bevins, any final words tonight?
I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity, and I hope that having some of these questions answered in this fashion help folks out. Some folks could just feel so isolated with not getting to their community meetings, you know, at in their cafeteria in their elementary school, and some have been doing them virtual and trying to keep up, but this is a good way of getting information out, and I really appreciate it. And I'm just really thankful. You know, I look around the district and I look at things every day and say, how can we make this better? Or, hey, look at that, that's new, and people appreciate that. And you know, it's just been amazing in 10 years and under the last few years of your leadership, the things that are happening around the county. And, you know, it's nice. This is what I love about local government. You get to see things actually come into fruition. You know, something you've asked for or advocated for 8 years ago, you may see by year 10. And that has happened sometimes with some of our schools, and it's been a process, but we're going to get there. And I certainly appreciate the partnership that I have with you and the entire county council. I think it's you've really been a breath of fresh air as far as transparency and people knowing that you're going to be in their communities, you're going to have venues like this for people to participate in and not always have to send an email. And they really like this, so I'm glad that you're going around the county doing it again. So I just want to thank all the great directors that are on board again, that you know, work under the county executive. You do a phenomenal job working with my office as well, and I'm really, really grateful. And just keep up the good work, county executive, because I'm really proud of the work that's been done over the last couple of years. And look, I say this all the time, anybody can do this job when there's tons of money and everybody's getting everything they want and it's happy, happy, happy. It's really how you get through this when times are hard, when they're tough. And it really shows your leadership skills and how you know, have maneuvered through it. So it's been difficult, but you've just done a great job, and I'm grateful for the partners on the county council. And I don't know how we do it without our communities. You know, we can't be the eyes and ears in each one of our neighborhoods all the time. And I'm so grateful. I hate when they call and say, I'm sorry to bother you, but I say, it's no bother. That's what we're here for. We want to know about your pothole. We want to know about the fence that fell down. We want to know about the wash machine that was dumped at the end of your street last night. We need to know these things. We don't want to be reactive. We want to be a proactive government, right? So we really want to be working with folks all the time. And I just really enjoy that you ask people what they would like to see, and that we are that kind of government now. So thank you so much, Don. I certainly appreciate it.
Thanks, Kath. It's a pleasure to be your partner, Councilwoman Evans. And, you know, honestly, Your support and partnership has been critical in weathering all of the crises we faced, including this most recent one. So thank you for your friendship and for your partnership. Thanks to all the directors and representatives of county government tonight for your partnership and for your leadership. And most importantly, thanks to our residents who tuned in tonight, who submitted questions, who are engaging in this process. We're very proud to be a government that asks what you think and tries our very best to incorporate it. So I hope everyone is staying safe. Keep your distance, wear your mask, get your vaccine when you're eligible. Hopefully we're coming out of this soon. We're going to get through this together, and looking forward to seeing everyone in person sooner rather than later. So stay safe, everybody, and have a great night. Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.